Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Sofito. Matt, before we talk about the beautiful day we had here, how's it looking in Milan for that open-air opening ceremony?
Well, they got new snow in Cortina yesterday, and which is great news, although it did slow down some of the competitions because they want to get those tracks to be nice and clean and fast. There is another cold front moving through Europe right now, including northern Italy, so they are getting a little bit of snow, and they will get a little bit of rain in the morning hours in Milan, but it'll be warm. It'll be about 55 degrees, and after the morning rain, it will dry out. You can see they get some new precipitation up in the mountains there around the Dolomites, around Cortina, and the other venues there too. So again, it is a cool temperature right now. They're going to warm to about 55, and you know what? I'm sure it's going to be great for the opening ceremonies, David.
Looking forward to that. Just about 12 hours away now. Thanks, Matt. We'll check in with you in a few minutes. Well, we are following up tonight on a Gresham family detained by ICE while trying to take their 7-year-old to the doctor. And 3 weeks on, it turns out they are still locked inside a notorious Texas detention center. Catherine Cook spoke with a close friend of the family tonight. Catherine?
And also lawmakers are doing what they can to help. Just tonight, David, Congresswoman Maxine Dexter, who is in Texas to see the family, says she was blocked from entering the facility. The friend tells us the family, including their 7-year-old daughter, is barely eating. They're scared and confused about why they were taken, believing they had done everything right.
Por dentro, lo primero que hice fue llorar. Lloré, lloré, lloré.
Ana Linares Mendoza recalling her tears during a recent phone call she got from a detention center in Texas. That's where federal agents have been holding her friends, Dariana Lizeth Gonzalez de Crespo, Yohenry de Jesus Crespo, and their 7-year-old daughter for 3 weeks. Agents detained the Gresham family January 16th outside Adventist Health in southeast Portland, where the daughter was trying to see a doctor for a severe nosebleed. Mendoza says conditions in Texas have been difficult for the family, and their health is suffering, especially the little girl who can hardly eat or sleep.
Por ejemplo, la niña está un poco débil porque no come. Fue lo que me dijo ella el domingo, la niña no come.
Mendoza says the Crespo Gonzalez family came to the U.S. seeking asylum from political violence in Venezuela. She says they believe they were here legally, pending a court date for their asylum claim. A statement from DHS offered this explanation for detaining them. Quote, these parents illegally entered the U.S. with their daughter in 2024 through the disastrous CPB-1 app and were released into the country by the Biden administration. Any application for asylum does not preclude immigration enforcement. Congresswoman Maxine Dexter argues the family has asylum status and an active court date. On Thursday, she tried to visit the Texas facility, but was blocked. DHS has something to hide, said Dexter in a statement. They know that if Americans could see what is happening inside this facility, the policy of imprisoning children and families would collapse overnight. Mendoza is helping raise money for her friends, which pays for limited food and water inside the detention facility. And every day, she prays for their safe return.
Hay que tener fe.
I have to have faith. Congresswoman Dexter says she plans to return to the detention facility on Friday and will keep showing up until taxpayers know what's being done to children with their tax dollars. David?
A lot of questions. Catherine Cook, appreciate the follow-up tonight. Well, it's a new reaction tonight after a federal judge ruled that ICE cannot arrest people in Oregon without a warrant unless they are likely to escape. Tonight, Homeland Security calling the ruling a, quote, charade from what they call an activist judge, saying the ruling won't work, and, quote, DHS conducts enforcement operations in line with the U.S. Constitution. So one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, this ruling is connected to a proposed class action, by the way, calls the decision an important check on the federal government and that the ruling will put a stop to unfounded arrests like the one of this Hillsborough grandfather, Victor Cruz, who was held for weeks without a warrant and despite his legal status.
This fear, this constant sense of being hunted was real. It was actually really real. And now I think there can be a pause.
Well, judges have issued similar rulings in Colorado and Washington, D.C., which the government is now appealing.
And I heard pop, 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 pop.
Developing this evening, one man is dead after he was shot by Portland police in an apartment building this morning in the Pearl District. Authorities say their investigation began over the weekend, though, when the suspect allegedly tried to shoot a security guard at a nearby Safeway. The gun, they say, failed to go off. Police traced the man to his apartment near Northwest 14th and Raleigh. When the suspect did not come out, PBB says it evacuated the entire floor and then deployed gas. 2 officers fired shots, authorities say, after the suspect emerged into the hallway and pointed a gun.
I was on the floor directly below. About a little after 5 a.m., I heard a very loud bang. I'm 9 stories up in the Pearl. You know, it's a good neighborhood. This kind of stuff usually never happens whatsoever.
Authorities say when it comes to the incident at the Safeway, the suspect left behind a case with a loaded shotgun that contained shells with written threats mentioning President Trump. The 2 officers, by the way, are now on administrative leave. Police have not released the name of the man who was shot and killed. Meanwhile, a brand new ruling from Oregon Supreme Court means any criminal case without a defense attorney could be dismissed, and within just a few months. Here's Evan Watson.
Yeah, David, this could have a huge impact. Oregon's public defender system has been short-staffed for years. Criminal defendants are left waiting for representation. Crime victims are frustrated by delays, and lawyers are overwhelmed. Today's new ruling sets a limit for what's acceptable, and it could lead to people walking free without a trial. The Oregon Supreme Court says trial courts must dismiss cases where there's no defense attorney available after 2 to 3 months of waiting. The ruling lists 60 days as the limit for misdemeanor cases and 90 days for felony cases. Judges ruled that waiting any longer for legal representation is a constitutional violation, undermining the fairness of the legal system. This sets a new standard in Oregon, putting pressure on the legislature and the collection of public defenders who are called to represent people who either can't afford or request a court-appointed lawyer. The ruling says any dismissal for a lack of a public defender would be filed without prejudice, meaning it's temporary. Prosecutors could refile charges if the case still meets all other rules. Attorney General Dan Rayfield shared a statement saying this has been an emergency for a long time, and explaining that he respects the decision and expects the Oregon Public Defense Commission to meet those standards and take responsibility for ensuring people are represented.
It's Evan Watson in the newsroom. This is just the latest development when it comes to Oregon's public defender crisis. You can check out Evan's reporting. It goes back years on the backlog of cases and efforts to improve representation anytime. It's on our free TV streaming app, KGW+.